If you like film photography and you're at all interested in studio lighting, you're definitely gonna wanna stick around. I think you're gonna like this video. In this video today, I wanna go over how I created these two images using the Mamiya RZ67 and how I used 3 to 4 strobes to light this. I know 3 and 4 strobes seems like a lot, but trust me, after I break it down, you're gonna understand each one's job. Now, my goal for this first image was really to just stretch my creativity, create an image that was eye-catching, but also using little to no Photoshop. I wanted to do everything in camera. Now, this was my inspiration for this shoot. You see, it's a woman in a car on what looks to be a summer day. I knew I wanted my backdrop, which would be this cloudy sky, to be lit evenly. And I knew I wanted a flattering light on my subject's face. So first I started with my backdrop. I used the same cloudy backdrop I used in this video. However, some of you commented saying you wanted to hear a little bit more about this backdrop. I purchased this from Denny's Manufacturing, and it's 100% polyester, and it's 8 feet by 8 feet. Now to light this, I used 2 Profoto D1s, bare bald, and I shot them into the white side of a V-flat. What this does is it lights the backdrop very evenly. If you've seen my very first YouTube video, you know that this is my favorite way to light a backdrop, especially this guy backdrop. So we've already used 2 Profoto lights to light the backdrop. Now to light the subject, I use another Profoto D1, but this time I put a beauty dish on it. Now, a beauty dish is one of my favorite modifiers. It gives a really natural, flattering light on the subject's face. Now, I had it just to the right of the mirror and the subject, and I had it pointed at the subject. The nice thing about this is it gave light to the subject's face, but it also gave light to the rearview mirror and the dice I had hanging from it. Now, where the fourth light comes in is I wanted to add a little bit more contrast when it came to color. So there's a lot of white and blue happening in this image. What I wanted to do was add just a rim light of red. So what I did was I brought out a 4th Profoto D1. I put a 20-degree grid on it, and what that does is just contains the light and makes it so the light doesn't spill all over the subject. And then I put a red gel on it as well. That's what gave this really cool red rim light, almost as if it's the brake lights to a car. I think this one little rim light added a lot to this image. Now, of course, I shot this on my Mamiya RZ67 using Portra 400, which is my favorite film stock to use, especially in the studio. I shot this metered at box speed, and the shutter speed was about 125, and I believe I had the f-stop around 11. Now, the hardest part about this image was I was trying to take an image of a reflection. In order to shoot, I knew I had to be behind the model, just to the right of their shoulder. However, I just had to make sure that I was not in frame. I was just outside the frame. Now, there were a few images I took that I was in the frame, but again, I didn't want to use Photoshop. I didn't really want to clone myself out or anything like that. I wanted to keep it really minimal, so I just made sure that I was just outside the frame. And this dark background behind the model, I just put a black V-flat behind her. You could use a black poster board or a black curtain, but this helped kind of take in some of the light, and it helped the model's face to kind of stand out. I did take about a full day trying to figure out how to hang this mirror and the dice. I ended up just going for the good old duct tape. Now, as you can see in the image, I cropped it a bit so you don't see the duct tape or the C-stand. Again, I didn't want to do much Photoshop. I didn't want to have to clone this out. So I ended up just cropping it a bit. And that's it. 2 strobes to light the backdrop, 1 strobe with a beauty modifier to light the subject, and 1 other strobe with a grid to give a nice rim light. And here are some of the final images. So this next image has a lot simpler of a lighting setup. I'm still using 2 Profoto strobes to light the backdrop, in the same way, shooting into the white side of a V-flat, making sure that the background is very even. And one other ProPhoto light, but this time I have a ProPhoto 3-foot Octabox plus a grid. Now what this does is it gives a nice flattering yet harsh light, but the grid helps control the light so that it doesn't spill all over the model and onto the backdrop. As you can see in this image, there are bright highlights and dark shadows. This is exactly what I was trying to go for. I almost wanted a overexposed highlight look. I did have to drop the exposure a bit in post to get it to where I wanted to, but I still loved how these images came out. Now you can see the modifier is just above the model's face and it's angled downward. That's what's really giving it that dramatic shadow. I did shoot these on the Mamiya as well using Portra 400. I metered for the box, so 400 ISO. Shutter speed was 125 and the f-stop was 22. A simple lighting setup, simple camera settings, but the images look really eye-catching, really bold, really graphic. I do kind of wish I used Portrait 160, not instead of 400, but just as well. I wish I could have something to compare to, which is something I'm trying to get better at, is shooting on different settings on my camera and different box speeds, different film, so that I have something to kind of compare and contrast with. As always, I hope you liked this video. I hope you found it helpful, and I hoped it inspired you to take your film camera, your Mamiya, or whatever that is, and go into the studio and test things out. One of the main reasons I wanted to create videos like this is because I know how hard and nerve-wracking it can be to rent a studio and try to set up lighting and test a bunch of different things with a model there, and then having to take it all down all within a span of like 2 to 3 hours. So I hope these videos serve as a little bit of guidance or inspiration of how you might set up your lights just to make shooting go a little easier and a little quicker. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. It would mean a lot. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have a few videos out now, but I'm excited for the videos that are to come. I'll see you guys next time.